One day, it was 6th of March, they came to my house with masked balaclavas and heavy machinery, broke the front door and ordered us to leave. The fear was enormous, so I just can't describe what the fear was, and it was not just, individual fear, but it was collective. A refugee is a legal term that has been defined by United Nations 1951 Convention on Refugees. And a refugee is a person who has left their own country and are unwilling or unable to return back to their country for the reason of being persecuted on grounds of their gender, religion, political opinion.
That is a very limited convention, with a very limited definition of what it means to flee from somewhere, from a person. And the same thing for trafficking in human beings.
To my opinion, there's not much difference. It's just like an evolution stage. Somebody starts an asylum seeker and then ends up as a refugee.
My book is title is Democracy in World Arabic Muslim. It's talking about politics in Algeria and some country and Arabic, especially for Islam and for in Algeria and for people extremists in Algeria, and for government is mixed with military. And it's very dangerous for me. I am risking prison in my country because my book is not valid for going country inside, because in airport it can stop you, it take your book. But if you go arrest me because there's no authority for publish inside Algeria.
I think the important thing is for the public to understand why does people come. Why do people leave their house or their surrounding, their friends, everything, and just come here? And I think a lot of times there's a wrong perception by the community, thinking they all come here because the benefit system is wonderful. So they access that just to move on and get on. Nobody wants to stay on a benefit. A lot of asylum seekers, refugees, and the other black, BME community that settled, they came here as refugees, they came here as asylum seekers. And today they're running industries.
Well, the main problems that asylum seekers find in this country are knowing where to claim asylum, how to claim asylum, how to make themselves known to the government. The most important and the main problem that people have here is trying to navigate the asylum system, which is very complicated. As an organization, we are trying to get the government to have their immigration law as humane as is possible and treat people as fairly as is possible. So have very well-trained immigration officers provide legal advice for people.
Legal aid is the whole basis on which refugees and asylum seekers obtain legal representation, because obviously people come to this country, they usually come with nothing. They've got legal rights to representation and advice. There's been huge cuts to the ability of people to actually be able to obtain lawyers, so not just the amount of work we can do, but also the access to the number of lawyers available, because the problem is that we get paid per case for the work we do, and that gets cut back to the point where it's just not economically viable for law firms to do this kind of work anymore. And so really it's more become a vocation for people rather than a job. The whole system is really relying on the goodwill of those people left in the system to try and help people.
If you cannot access legal aid, then you cannot access many services. Going through the regulations now, the changes in the law in England on legal aid, we see that it is the subject of divorce, child benefit or child custody, everything to do with welfare and other things that are so important to family life.
People who are genuine victims are getting trapped into a big political argument. Whoever the government was, I think all political parties have a consensus now really that, you know, we have to crack down on immigration.
We are human right here. We are human right here. We are human right here.
In law, immigration is the only part of the law, of the whole system of law, that makes a human being illegal. Everything else has to do with an action, with something you do, with, or not meeting a contract. It's an action. Immigration law is the only thing that makes the actual person illegal. You can say it 10,000 times, illegal immigrant, illegal immigrant. A person, a human being is not illegal.
It's very difficult because when people come in this country, have no speak English, no writing, is very difficult.
It is our human right.
So between 70 and 80% of asylum seekers will have their case refused the first time round, and then they will have to go to an appeal. At appeal, it's somewhere around about 25 to 40% of cases will get overturned on appeal. So there's a huge number of decisions which are being wrongly made.
The government is giving a few choices. They're saying, well, you can make a further representations or fresh claim if you have completely new evidence which is not similar to the first one you had. And people have one story. They don't have plan B or plan C about their life.
When we set up in about 2009, there are about 450,000 people in Britain who are in that situation. So they've been refused one way or another, but they were still in the country without status. And what that means in England is that you don't have the right to work, because you don't have the right to work as an asylum seeker. You don't have the right to any benefits. That becomes stopped when your case is refused. And so you also don't have the right to any housing.
The government now is trying to stop them from volunteering as well, because a lot of people, when they volunteer, they get their expenses provided. If they don't get money, they get food.
The British government must follow the Refugee Convention. The sad reality is that people are being turned away who have a genuine claim. The Home Office, Border Agency, I believe they had something like 20% cuts to their budget. What's happening is that low-skilled people, civil servants, are making decisions. These people are not trained in the Refugee Convention. They're not trained to notice when somebody has symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, depression or anxiety.
When I play asylum seeker in 2005, we go close. After this, I don't have anything. I don't have benefit, I don't have housing, I can go working because I don't have a permission for work. I mean difficult because I don't have nothing.
People who get granted status, they've got 28 days to move on, and there is a grace period between, their support ending and the benefits start, or they find a job. So we find a number of people in between those supports. This situation does affect people's mental health, and we do have a lot of clients whose mental health has deteriorated quite dramatically as a result of being destitute. We had a number of clients who went down to the route of crime. When I say crime, petty thieves, you know, stealing food from supermarkets, or some people went into prostitution as well. That's pretty much what destitution is.
Then if someone is successful and they become a refugee, support for housing, support for education, support for employment is very, very limited, and people rely on groups like ours, from donations and from trusts who support us, to be able to provide that kind of support.
In Britain, there's an issue where it's very hard for people to claim asylum, very difficult for them to be granted asylum. Some people end up waiting 2, 3, 4 years just to get an answer on their case.
The government prevents local councils from providing support to asylum seekers, so there's nothing local councils can do. The government has a legal duty to provide asylum seekers with access to legal representation. It sees refugee law in terms of the wider immigration debate, and as we know, it's becoming a bit like Fortress Britain. We don't want to give people refugee status because that in a sense feeds into this idea that we're not tough on immigration.
And of course, for non-EU citizens, the European Union is like Fortress Europe, and many people risk their lives trying to reach it because it seems a haven of a better life. It's not only death by drowning in the Mediterranean, it's also actually being murdered along the way and money being taken. It is also exhaustion, hunger, starvation, landmines.
I feel it's sometimes gets too stereotypical, where they're treated as if they're criminals. These people are not criminals. They have come here from a desperate situations at times.
I think it's very true that we're always shaped by the images and the stereotypes that we grew up with around us. And in this country and in Europe, we've grown up with a lot of stereotypes. On the one hand, the terrorist, the foreigner who really wants to destroy the West, and on the other hand, the economic migrant, the one who wants to steal the profit that you are making, that your family deserves, and so on.
If you want people coming here, asylum seeker, after 5 years, you don't have nothing, you kiss the clues. But majority people, and me, I don't like benefit. Just give me permission for work. I can rent the room, after better, then go sleep out.
If you are an asylum seeker and you are beaten up, you're not going to go and report it. Because the minute you report it and they find out you are a failed asylum seeker, forget the service you get, they are more interested in now how to hand you over to the border agency.
And surely having visited some of the detention centers, it's a pity. It's very, very, very worrying, and these are some of the things that we strongly condemn because they don't meet any standards, and the process itself is not a fair process. So you find people who probably shouldn't be detained anyway.
The city of Century means the city to save the asylum seeker and refugee. I am wishing, I am hoping to this name to be true, because still I am feeling I am not living in safe here. any day, anytime, the Home Office, they can detain us and by force remove to our country, which is not safe and still a risk for me, and I am sure for the other asylum seekers as well.
Yeah, deportation is a worrying issue. How do you guarantee a safety of those people? You can't.
I was been sleeping College Green 26th day, because before I don't have anything, I don't have accommodation. And some people, you know, we drink in night. It's big problem, sometimes sleep, sometimes no, sometimes rain, sometimes cold. Because I don't have any chance. I don't have chance for returning my country. I don't have chance for staying in this country. I don't have anything chance. Majority people is asylum seeker. When you come in here, is coming. Some people don't have a proof, you know. Similar me, my home office no understand my cases. My case is very dangerous in my country. I am in dangerous.
Ibrahim's phone is actually is something that have, you know, a paraffin to our campaign. It sort of ignited most of the people here in Bristol to make sure that the issue of destitution is put into the public domain. But also more importantly, I think councillors like Ron Stone, Feehans, who end up actually, you know, coming on board, and those people who also, you know, helped him say, I think we have to stand and do something. What Ibrahim did was not only for him, but for many people who are destitute in Bristol. So this was a catapult for making sure that everybody be aware that there are people who are in limbo, who, as a city, these things should not happen.
People in Bristol have pursued being a city of sanctuary because they think it's not enough that there's just some organisations that are providing support for asylum seekers and refugees, which is quite a political statement, because obviously our immigration policies are tightening and there are a lot of people who think that it's not a good idea to be a welcoming space for asylum seekers.
The influence came from a band of people who felt strongly enough about it to the city, to the councillors, to me and to others. And I was very lucky to be in this position at the time when we made that decision. But there were other people who have led the march and have led the campaign, and that is great. And I think now it is up to me to help convince the other city leaders to do likewise as well.
If enough cities become part of the national movement of City of Sanctuary and they're all pushing for the same thing, and there's other cities that are trying to adopt the destitution motion, you know, if that happens, then I think the voice becomes stronger.
I think Bristol got like different culture and different types of communities come together, and they feel peace in Bristol generally. There is a big community of Somalian people and big community of Sudanese people. There is a lot of Syrian people coming to Bristol mainly, so they feel like this is a place where they can feel safe.
I think the improvements have been the profile of refugees and asylum seekers, motion at the council around destitution, the support from politicians, from the mayor to the councillors, and I think that gives a lot of hope to refugees and asylum seekers in Bristol, and it makes them feel they have a right to be here and that they're welcome and that Bristol is for them.
A lot of people come to see us. They're in a state of limbo. They really don't know which way to turn. And some people we get just come to chat, to talk. They're in serious problems, you know, they've got nowhere to live, they have lots of issues that affect them. But sometimes they just want to come and talk to somebody who will listen to them. And believe it or not, someone watching a video of some music from where they're from it makes them feel better. Even though they probably haven't had food that day, it makes them feel better.
Yeah, my time volunteering at Bristol Refugee Rights was really incredible. It really opened my eyes to the difficulties that these people face. Asylum seekers and refugees want to get involved and want to be working and involved in their community, and how they just come up against so many closed doors the whole time, and how frustrating that is. So just simple things, in this case, transport, being able to get around a city, not having to walk for a couple of hours every day, felt like a really good way to help with that, to make people more independent.
The thing we're quite encouraged by at the moment is refugee and asylum seekers, individuals are moving more to the forefront of the campaign in Bristol. What it used to be would be Bristol city residents fighting on behalf of refugees and asylum seekers. People from these communities in Iran, Somalia, have almost said, like, enough is enough, and they're prepared to step up themselves.
And our job to every time to empower women, to encourage women. And sometimes we work with the family. You have men and women and a lot of together. And I say to them, look at us, we succeed at the end. We have kids here, they're going to school, and we have job at the end. Or we make ourselves from nothing. And all the time I say to the people, go on, don't stop yourself.
Yeah, I am happy with many people organization, Welcome Center, BRR and BHN. He's go help me before, he's very good. And now my solicitor, he go open for me case now, and they have accommodation now from NAS.
Throughout the year, we deal with problems, we deal with issues, and we know what the issue is, but this is the time to celebrate. And for some people, it's celebration of survival, being alive and being safe in this country. For some people, a celebration of moving on in their life and doing good things. And for us, as a host community, being able to protect these people and giving them a life that they deserve.